Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Learning Curve, the channel where we talk about anything and everything that is related to physical education and learning. Today, we want to discuss about expectations and routines. But before we answer the why, we should start with understanding the what. Therefore, what do we mean by expectations and what exactly are routines in the context of a classroom lesson? I think that expectations are basically broad guidelines for positive behavior that supports learning, and that routines are the steps. Perhaps we can also see them as success criteria required by students to meet those expectations that were set that supports learning and interaction in the classroom. Now that we have settled with the what, let's go into the why. So why is it important to have expectations and routines during our lessons? First and foremost, I believe that it creates a safe environment for our students to take risks in making mistakes during learning. And when we are able to adjust and change for the better from the mistakes that we have made, learning becomes stronger and more powerful for our learners. Imagine what can happen when expectations and routines are totally absent during a lesson. Students will most likely be doing their own things, and most likely zero learning will take place. Second, it frees up more time for teachers to facilitate learning, because if students know how to respond appropriately during their activity time to construct the new knowledge which they are learning, we as teachers can be walking around the classroom to observe them on their lesson tasks and provide appropriate feedback to move students' learning forward. In contrast, when there are no expectations and routines to guide students with appropriate behavior in class, we will instead be monitoring for discipline, and therefore reduces our willingness to try out pedagogies that construct knowledge for our learners. Therefore, this makes us most likely want to stick to frontal teaching or insisting students to do exactly what they are told during lessons, which is hardly motivating and also does not create much in helping our students learn. So, what are some of the expectations and routines that we should have in our classrooms? There are three basic types essentially, and they are classroom routines, lesson running routines, and interaction routines. So let's start off with the first one, classroom routines. Classroom routines mainly deals with lesson administration. So for example, in PE, students may be informed that they are expected to assemble at their PE venues within 8 minutes. So their routine of doing that could be that they should spend 3 minutes to change, 2 minutes to check that they have locked up their belongings and classroom, and 3 minutes to move down to the PE venues. How they assemble should also be mentioned clearly to them. For example, if they may sit in pairs, in rows of 4s or 5s, or in circles of 4s or 5s. So if they are seated in rows, they should know that it is mainly for taking instructions and accounting for attendance. And if they sit in circles or pairs, they should be ready to discuss about tactics or strategies before games, create their own practice drills, or perhaps reflect on what they have learned from the lesson. Now, next, interaction routines. Interaction routines basically guide how our students should communicate and engage with the teacher and peers to foster respectful and a collaborative learning environment. For example, when asking and answering questions, students should raise their hands before speaking, or when they use a think, pair, share strategy to discuss with a partner first before sharing their thoughts and ideas with the class in general. Also, when doing group work, there should be norms like having each group member with a role like timekeeper, recorder, presenter, to ensure that everyone participates effectively. And also, when giving feedback during discussions amongst classmates, students should perhaps also use positive words and respect different views. And they may use sentence starters like, I like your point, but I think we can make this better by, or I like to add on to what you have shared, okay, to make their conversations more constructive. Finally, lesson running routines are procedures that ensure lessons flow smoothly without unnecessary disruptions. They help students to transit between activities effectively and efficiently. So, for example, when we start a lesson, we should lay out at least our classroom objectives and, if possible, success criteria to our students. Next, activate prior knowledge before introducing and getting our students to engage in their learning activities. Finally, conclude our lesson to consolidate learning. At every stage of the lesson, students should know what they should do to respond to the lesson or to the flow of the lesson. For example, during the learning engagement stage of the lesson, students should be expected to actively listen to instruction first before participating actively and respectfully in the learning activities. So, should we share why there should be expectations and routines to our students? My answer would be yes, okay, that we must. This is because if students are expected to simply follow the instructions regarding expectations and routines, they may go away thinking that they are being forced to do something or being treated like robots, which may therefore negate the effectiveness of the expectations and routines that we are setting. Therefore, letting them know that it is really to create a safe environment for everyone to have a fair chance to learn, which is what a school is supposed to be anyway, will make most of our students willingly comply with the expectations and routines that we have set for the class. Lastly, which most of us are most concerned with, is how should we enact and help our students learn the expectations and routines that we're supposed to set for them. Let's focus on the idea of learning first. To help someone learn something, he or she must construct new knowledge and therefore meaning. So as we lay out the expectations and routines, we should not simply just say to our students that they are expected to do a 1, 2, 3 or ABC without explaining the meaning to them. We should go a step further by inviting them to think and imagine what would happen if there are no expectations and routines in a lesson. Will there be respect towards teachers, their peers, and also the mission of the school? Next, I think we should then observe keenly in our students enacting the class routines. I strongly believe that positive feedback and affirmation of their effort must be provided if we see them do well in enacting the routines. For example, if students are able to assemble within the time limit and sit down in the correct formation for PE lessons, we must praise them for their effort in achieving the outcome. Even if they have not done well enough, we should find something positive to mention. For example, if they did not assemble within the time limit but assembled in the correct formation, praise them for the effort in sitting in the right formation, but give them feedback to perhaps spend less time on the changing by wearing their PE shorts under their school shorts to save time. And I couldn't emphasize more on the power of affirming effort on improving intrinsic motivation in these examples which I've stated. So, all in all, expectations and routines are very important because it provides broad guidelines and steps to positive behavior that creates a safe environment for our students to take risks in making mistakes as they do their learning, as well as automating processes in lesson administration and learning, which thereby minimizes the need to keep repeating instructions for things that happen repeatedly during lessons. So the irony in teaching is that if we focus too much on only pedagogies and learning activities without getting the behavior and beliefs right in our students, very little learning about what they are supposed to learn for the lesson actually takes place. Instead, what will happen is that they will converse amongst themselves and do everything else that is totally unrelated to the lesson. Alright, so that is about all I have to share for this episode. Hope that it is of help to you, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you and take care, everyone.